What if I told you that a fictional monster from the internet convinced two 12-year-old girls to turn on their best friend? No masks. No supernatural powers. Just belief. A belief so strong it blurred the line between reality and imagination. This is not a movie. This is not a legend. This actually happened. May 31, 2014. Waukesha, Wisconsin. A quiet suburban town. Safe neighborhoods. Tree-lined streets. The kind of place where parents don't think twice before letting their kids play outside. Nothing about this town suggested that it would soon become the center of one of the most disturbing cases in modern internet history. It all started with something simple. A sleepover. 3 12-year-old girls. Laughing, whispering, staying up late. Just like millions of kids do every night across America. They played games. They shared stories. They acted like normal friends. But as the night went on, the tone slowly began to change. Because 2 of those girls were already deeply obsessed with something. Something dark. An online myth. A figure known as Slender Man. Tall. Unnaturally thin. Faceless. A silent presence. Often described as lurking in forests. Watching, waiting. The story was never meant to be real. It began on internet forums as part of a horror trend known as Creepypasta. Fictional stories. Created to entertain. To scare. To go viral. But sometimes, when the mind is young, and fear takes hold, fiction doesn't stay fiction. For these 2 girls, Slender Man wasn't just a story. He was real. They believed he could see them. They believed he could hear them. And worst of all, they believed he could hurt their families. Imagine being 12 years old and carrying that kind of fear. Day after day. Night after night. Until fear turns into something else. Obsession. And then a decision. They came to believe that the only way to protect themselves was to prove their loyalty. To show Slender Man that they were worthy. And to do that, they needed to make a sacrifice. Not an object. Not a symbol. A person. Their plan wasn't random. It was calculated. Quietly discussed. Built over time. Hidden behind normal smiles and conversations. And the person they chose was their own friend. The next morning, everything seemed normal. The girls left the house together. Walking, talking. Heading toward a nearby park and wooded area. Nothing unusual. Nothing suspicious. Just 3 friends. Spending time together. Until they reached the woods. That's when everything changed. Away from people. Away from safety. Surrounded by trees. And silence. That's where the plan unfolded. Without warning, the 2 girls turned on their friend. What happened next would shock the entire country. An act so unexpected, so disturbing, that it forced people to ask a terrifying question. How could something like this happen? When it was over, they didn't stay. They didn't call for help. They left her there. Alone. Believing she wouldn't survive. And then, they did something even more chilling. They walked deeper into the woods. Not to hide. Not to escape. But to find him. They believed Slender Man was waiting. That beyond the trees, there was another world. A place where they would be safe. A place where they would belong. But reality had other plans. Because somehow, against all odds, their friend survived. Injured. Weak. Barely able to move. But alive. She refused to give up. Slowly, painfully, she made her way out of the woods. Step by step. Until she reached a nearby road. A cyclist passing by noticed her, stopped, and immediately called for help. Emergency responders arrived quickly. And what they found was something they would never forget. She was rushed to the hospital. Doctors worked to save her life. And somehow, they succeeded. Meanwhile, police began searching for answers. It didn't take long. The two girls were found later that day, walking near a highway. Calm. Quiet. No panic. No urgency. Just walking. As if they were heading somewhere important. When officers approached them, they didn't run. They didn't resist. They simply stopped. And when questioned, their answers stunned everyone. They said they did it for Slender Man. They said they had to prove themselves. They believed this was the only way to protect their families. A fictional character had become real in their minds. As the investigation continued, a deeper layer of the story began to emerge. One of the girls was struggling with severe mental illness. She experienced hallucinations, voices, visions. For her, the line between reality and imagination was already fragile. And the Slender Man myth pushed it even further. The case quickly became more than just a crime. It became a debate. Responsibility, influence, mental health, and the power of the internet. Should they be treated as criminals, or as children in need of help? The court faced a difficult decision. Because this wasn't a typical case. This was something new. Something shaped by the digital world. In the end, both girls were sent to mental health facilities, where they would receive long-term treatment. Not prison. Treatment. Because what happened wasn't just about violence. It was about belief. A belief strong enough to override reality. Today, this case is still remembered. Not just for what happened, but for what it represents. A warning about the stories we consume, about the content we share, and about how powerful imagination can become when it goes unchecked. Slender Man was never real, but the fear, the belief, that was real. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Because in the end, the most dangerous monsters aren't the ones hiding in the dark. They're the ones created inside the human mind.